Flash issue 888. This is Joshua Williamson writing with Howard Porter on the art. So Howard Porter back, did a Flash book.
Not enough to tempt Matt back though, right?
Matt didn't read this.
Nope.
No?
I did not. I told you guys I was done.
Yeah, I didn't
Unless
believe
I
Yeah,
hear
but we
some-
only like half believed you.
Yeah, I didn't believe you.
Yeah, I
Let's-
know. Well,
let's be
now
honest.
you fully believe me. I did not read this, and you know what? It felt great.
Oh, I'm sure.
I didn't get annoyed. It was a fun day reading comics.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the weird thing about this is that this is probably the best issue in a while because it is kind of the start of a new thing and isn't connected to a lot of. I mean, there's some references to Flash Year One, which obviously made me go, ugh. But
It's the best issue in a while, but I still don't like it.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, it's a prelude to Flash Age, and it's the introduction of Paradox. So presumably, is going to be the villain, in Flash Age, and it's this guy who, on the night Barry got his powers, he also was affected by the lightning because he has his own lab, and he's doing his own studies, and he's got a family, and eventually, he basically has this weird multiversal kind of like moment where he sees all the planets at the same time and he's affected differently. And then when he sees the Flash in action soon, he witnesses Flash, he's in the crowd watching Flash fight Turtle. He ends up having this moment, and he travels to this sort of in-between place, this interdimensional place, and he drags a few civilians along with him, not intentionally, just kind of like
I'm pretty sure this is the place we've seen before. I want to say it was in the New 52. There was a place between dimensions that a bunch of people got stranded, and Barry had to rescue them.
Yeah, you may be right.
Does that sound familiar at all?
I vaguely remember that. Was that not like the Speed Force though? Maybe I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I read that early New 52 stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember either exactly,
Yeah.
but it reminded me a lot of.
Wait,
that.
what? That was under Manipul and Buccellato.
Yeah.
Where they got stuck into the Speed Force, and then they all came out and they had powers.
Yeah, that was a Speed Force. Yeah.
Yeah, but it visually reminded me a lot of that.
Sure.
Gotcha.
So he's there for a long time, and he's not really aging the way he's supposed to. Do you know what it reminded me of a little bit? It reminded me of Doctor Doom in the new Fantastic Four movie, the way he's stranded on that that planet, and then eventually he's got the cloak, because this guy ends up with a red cloak and a hood. So it's not the green cloak, but it's very similar, and he looks all kind of deformed. Like
I don't know quite how he gets it into a cloak, because it starts off as just like a hoodie, right?
Yes.
And then it looks like a regular hoodie, and then as soon as they're in this, this other place, it's longer, and then it gets tattered as it goes on. It looks like a completely different material by the end. I'm like, what's going on with this thing?
Anyway, so he's trying to find a way back home. He's building things in this other dimension, and the people are all getting sick except him, because because unlike him, they don't have the extra thing he had, because he was affected by the chemicals and lightning on the night of the.
That was actually really interesting, because in theory, because he was looking into time streams and different different timelines, and it was when the lightning hit Barry and the Speed Force was born, his equipment flared up, because it was like, hey, we're reading something, and then that affected him. It wasn't like chemicals or anything like that.
What we find out later on is that basically every time the Flash alters the timeline, he gets more powerful, because paradoxes fuel him, right? That's kind of...
Yeah.
This sounds like Zoom all over again, where he doesn't move through the Speed Force, he moves through time. So he's not.
Yeah, a little bit. There's a page where he's built his little tower, and we see various Flash events happening in the sky and the ripples of the time stream. Stuff we kind of recognize from various stories. And he eventually manages to get back into the real world, to get back to see his family. But by this point, he looks so deformed from being in this other place that his wife and kids don't recognize him, think he's a monster. And
they've moved on.
Yeah, they've moved on, and he does. He looks like Damage almost, with a red cape at this point.
That's a pretty good description.
Yeah. So he ends up going to the future, and Thawne shows up with
of course he does.
With the what do we call them?
And he's like, well, I guess I need my rogues, so here's my first one.
Yeah. So this is when Thawne's trying to be, the Flash of the future. This is when he's trying to be the good guy, right? And we find out at the end. So he's telling this. So basically, the narration is this guy's saying his story to someone the whole book, and the final couple pages reveal that he's actually telling the story to Godspeed. He's got Godspeed, because he wants to use him. He wants to.
Yeah, this is what we got a tease of a long time ago now, right? Because this was before year one. Is this during the Flash War stuff?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while. But he says, now that the Flash's connection to the Speed Force has been supercharged, it's time for the Flash to pay for what he's done to the time stream. So this is basically kind of like the idea that, like, for every time Barry or Wally have messed with the time stream because they've altered things, like, this is payback's coming. Like, something's actually going to, like, try and hold them accountable for it.
Yeah. See, I think that could be a nice idea, but fundamentally, every time the time stream changes, it's not shown to be a bad thing necessarily in this universe, right? You know, they're doing the right thing usually.
Yeah.
So it feels like they're punishing him just because.
Yeah, but he's a villain.
Well, no. Yeah, he's been warped by it. This is classic Flash villain 101.
No, sure. I think the problem is, if you put this on the Flash TV show and against that Barry, hell yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because he's terrible. He's everything he's done is out of petty, selfish reasons that, you know. And to be fair, Flashpoint happened because he was selfish. So
yeah,
sure, yeah.
So yeah, he has guilty at least one, you know, one of them,
one big one.
So I think it's an interesting concept. I think I like this issue more than recent because even though it did sort of reference year one a little bit because of what was happening with Turtle, I did actually just really like that it focused on this one new character who was narrating his own story, and it was just him sort of talking about who his family is and what he is and what he's doing and telling his story, and it's very focused. And because of that focus, you know, it felt like the classic issue of the villain introduction issue where we get his backstory and it sets up who he is so that when he pops up properly in the story in the main sort of arc, that we understand who he is. And I thought, as that type of issue, it did okay.
I agree with everything you said there. My problem is he's just not that interesting.
I mean, that's fair. That's a separate thing almost, right? That's like a separate thing. I think, from a craft point of view, I think this issue is fine. This issue is perfectly fine craft-wise. And I think the idea is perfectly fine. I'm not sure necessarily how I feel about the Godspeed inclusion there. I'll need to see what to do with that going forward. But it's definitely the best the book has been, and probably since just after Flash War.
I mean, yeah. Maybe.
No, I mean, definitely.
I might have enjoyed like some issues around the other forces more than this.
Oh, that's fair, yeah. But I'm thinking, like, you know, I'm just thinking the last few arcs, which have been year one, and then the year of the villain, you know, Citizen Cold.
What was the 4-year one? Was that the other forces?
That was the forces.
Yeah, because that went on for a while. Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, that one, and then because the what was his name, the monk guy, Steadfast.
Mm-hmm.
Told Barry, you have to remember this bullshit origin that nobody's gonna like. And then it jumped to and then it caught back up with the resolution.
Yeah.
And then we were hinted someone from the future that looked like they were in anti-monitor armor.
Yeah, so
there's so many threads Williamson has that I care much more about than something like this.
I guess the whole reason why it has to remember that origin is because the fact that also related to the creation of Paradox is going to be relevant in the future.
Yep. And it feels, and unless it wipes out that year one, that's the only benefit I can see from this.
Would be very surprised if they did that already.
Oh, I'm ready to be surprised, Connor. I want to enjoy Flash again. And nothing against Williamson. I always feel like you might get some shitty people that go, here, look what they're saying about you. And I always want to reiterate, I like most of what I've read from Williamson. I feel fatigued by his Flash right now.
Mm-hmm. I'm digging Batman Superman. I'm proper digging that book.
I'm so excited for Nailbiter to come back. What are your ratings on Flash, guys?
Yeah, Flash. Matt wants to keep things moving, apparently. So, I'll give this a 6. It was fine. You know, this was better than what it has been. Yeah, it's fine.
Sure. I'm going to go a little bit lower. I think it's, like you say, it's fine. It's okay. It does its job. From a craft perspective, it does, but I don't really like the stuff with the character that it is doing, so that kind of drags it down a bit. I'll bump it back up a touch because I think the art's pretty solid. It's nice to have some good art on the book. Or not, no, that's not fair. Sandoval's art wasn't bad. It was just not fitting for this book. But this is, more appropriate. So I'm going to go 5.5.